the Rose Tackle Football Show live here on YouTube. Well, not really, live to tape on YouTube. I am your host, Michael, here with Brother John. Brother John, welcome back to the show. Happy kind of opening night of the NBA. Bulls' first game tonight. Portland Trailblazers the beginning of a new road for them is tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's save it for the Rose.
the basketball show.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Rose 21, the Rose knockout show.
The Rose
Uh,
Knockout Show.
yeah.
We, I was thinking about this today. Every year, uh, in the summer, as the NBA season is winding down, uh, there's a lot of talk about how the NBA season starts too early. And wouldn't it be great if they just started at Christmas and, all that jazz?
Yep.
And I kind of agree with it. And then every October, right around this time, the Bears suck. Fantasy football is going terrible. And I am so relieved to have the Bulls to watch again. Uh, it's great. The Bulls are going to be terrible this year, but it is just nice to have some other sport to focus my energies on during this, what is inevitably a rough fall every year.
White Sox just got bounced, or never made the playoffs, and
Yep,
yeah, you're just rolling right into it. Comes at a
exactly.
perfect time. So
It does. It really does.
I can
Um,
I can appreciate that for sure. Yeah.
but
But you know what? You're coming off a Bears win this week.
that's true. Yep.
Teabag is well, he had, I think, what was a historically low or historically short depth of target. I think it was like one of the shortest depths of targets in the last 30 years. But
Um, not
but
surprising.
we got the W. So feeling pretty good
Yeah.
with that. Uh
Yeah, pretty great. Pretty really makes you kind of think about this Bears season a little bit. There's been some, they're 2-5, right? Uh they're really not that far away from being 4-3. They've had some like really close losses um in games, especially games that they should have won. There's been a couple of those. So it's hard not to wonder what we're saying right now if the Bears had been able to pull out a couple of those and they're sitting there at 4-3. It would be a, just a very different season, I think.
yeah,
But
there'd be a lot
alas,
more optimism.
not the case. All right, let's move from real to fantasy, where all our hopes and dreams lie, where everything we ever wanted can come true. Um,
And it's even bleaker for you.
let's not start. We don't need to start there. Um, the the Stallions have been dethroned. Let's open the show with that. The
Yes.
uh, the dark horse has finally fallen. Um, they uh, they just couldn't get it done this week against Jake. I think. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
we'll start there.
yeah. The Stallions stumbled right into a clay puddle and melted down. They
Yep.
got wet. They could not find a way out of it. Tyreek Hill had a pedestrian 20 points. Uh,
Mhm.
but Kirk Cousins, on his bench put up big numbers. But yeah, just down scoring across the board. And Jake had a huge day from Lamar Jackson, which was
Yeah, Jake gets a
incredible to see.
big day from Lamar, who played great. Big day from a very good day from Amon Ra and is actually able to sustain. He ended up starting Zach Evans, um, which if people go back and take a look at the show last week, I said I believe we talked about the fact that we did not think that was a great move, that Daryl Henderson was probably going to get quite a few carries. I don't even know that Zach Evans, I'm not sure that he got any carries, no offensive snaps.
No, I don't think
They
so.
just
Yeah.
don't seem to trust him at all in LA. Um, but yeah, it was a rough day um, for the Black Stallions. Purdy just did not look good at all in that game. Um,
I look terrible. Yeah, it sounds like he might not even play this week. He has a concussion, which
mhm.
I don't remember that happening.
Well, he didn't
But yeah,
leave.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, the fact that Jake won this game with only two players scoring in double digits is kind of incredible.
Yep.
And one player not scoring any points.
Yep.
It's kind of shocking.
Another
But
another example of a team that sold, that was kind of ready to give up on the season, continuing to win and make some noise.
yeah, and I mean, I think Jake's team still has a lot to give here. I think, when looking at his running backs there, he started Zach Evans and Latavius Murray, but he does have, he had Mixon on bye this past week, and then he does have James Conner and Achan uh,
Yes.
in his IR spot. So, Jake
Yes.
puts together a couple wins here. And then he does,
He could be
potentially
right
have
back in the
a
mix.
couple, yeah, a couple
Yeah.
big players coming back from IR,
Hmm.
and then looking pretty good. Although his, Chris Godwin seems to be just, I mean, not the Chris Godwin that we're used to seeing. But yeah, he's right there. And I mean, Lamar looked phenomenal. So
Yeah.
pretty great win
Agreed.
there to
Could
bring
be
down the Stallions.
could be a sign of good things to come for Jake's team. On the other side of the football, does this Sullivan has built up quite a cushion here, with those 6 wins. I think it's safe to say he's going to make the playoffs outside a epic collapse. Would you agree, or
Yeah,
do you think, okay, yeah,
yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think it would be extremely difficult for him to miss the playoffs at this point. Um,
yeah,
unless he loses out the whole way, which I don't see happening. I mean, I think he is in the toughest division, right? So,
yep,
he's playing Mecca Peter, Portugal the Ken, and myself. So he has to play each of us at least once more.
hmm
And so those could be tough matchups for him. Doubt he'll lose all three though. And
hmm
then it really depends on who he has to go up against. The rest of the way. I know next week he's playing you, so um, you know I don't want to look too far ahead. But there could be a couple other difficult matchups, but I have a hard time thinking that he doesn't um at at the very least, make the playoffs. There's no reason why he wouldn't. But
yeah,
his running back situation is also very concerning.
yeah, agreed, um, agreed. But and it could all be solved by Ramondre Stevenson kind of turning it on a little bit. He just has not been what I think people expected from him this year at all. Um,
I think
and I,
that O line is really hurt, if I remember
yeah,
correctly,
yeah,
which is really makes it difficult. And Mac Jones kind of just sucks. So,
yep,
but it would be
yep,
really great to get a Pats fan on here to give us a little bit of insight into what's
sure, that
going
would be
on in
helpful.
New England.
Yep,
You do have Belichick extended for another couple of years there. So I'd love to get your takes on that.
Yeah, they did that
Fitz
over
or
the summer,
Josh?
right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was
And
quiet, I guess.
just quietly release that information now.
Because everyone's like, oh my God, is he gonna get fired?
Yeah. Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
let's move on from this one. Uh, Big win for Jake. Congratulations to Jake. Where do you want to head next? Anything else you want to cover from last
I
week?
mean, a couple small, small points here. Alec finally falls, off his sort of Cinderella run there.
Mm-hmm.
Loses to the Mecha Peter and decide, pretty big margin there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
just a down day, I think, across the board from, um, Stafford didn't play all that well. The Miami got crushed, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have a
Yeah.
chance to watch that game. And then, just sort of pedestrian outings from some of his other from Moore and Janu there, and then Gabe Davis, which I think we had hyped up Gabe Davis playing
Yeah.
against New England,
Uh,
and that stat of number one versus number two wide receivers. And whew,
well,
sorry
we
about
did.
that, Alex.
I believe I did say if Alec wins, it will be because Gabe Davis goes off, and Alec did
Mm,
not win.
ah, ah,
And guess what? Gabe Davis didn't go off. He had a
he
terrible
did
fucking day.
not. Yeah,
Um, it was a rough day
yeah,
for Gabe Davis and the Bills in general.
yeah.
Um,
Peter survived a couple tough outings, and I don't
yes,
know if it's going to get easier for him.
yep,
Ford, I think Ford got injured. They didn't play him this week, but Ford got injured.
yep.
Waddle, I think, got injured again. And then,
Uh, so
is
I
that
mean,
right?
I
And
think the
then
big thing,
Ridley.
yeah, the big thing to talk about here, that like Ford getting injured hurts a lot. Um, and then I if it, like
Well, he won't play.
If Ridley has to get slotted in to his starting lineup, I'm trying to remember who else he has on his bench in terms of
That's
wide receivers,
that's
and
about
it's
it,
not
right?
a lot.
Yeah.
Um, in fact, I don't think he has a wide receiver on his bench right now.
I don't think he does either. No, he's just got Kittle, Charbonnet,
He's
Ingram.
just got
No, it's
Justin
all
Jefferson in
running.
IR. So until Jefferson comes back, having to play Ridley is that's gonna be tough. That's
Yeah, and you gotta hope,
yeah.
Justin Jefferson hamstring, hopefully it does not continue, to linger or anything like that. It does
Hmm.
seem to be this year that guys are coming back from hamstring injuries and playing pretty solid, but
Yeah.
I don't have any stats to back that up. But I mean, Puka is playing incredible, you know, outside of everything else, and so
Um, all right.
we'll see.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
and then other
big.
than that, Bill falling to me, which felt really good. Get
I
back
bet
on
it
that
did.
saddle. Uh, but really, I mean, the game of the week, which I think at least I was watching Monday night, and I'm sure other people had tuned in as well, was your epic collapse. I think you were up 19 going into the night uh, with Ayuk to play and Addison for Josh to play, and Addison had himself a fucking day after pretty much causing an interception on the first drive. He comes back and lights up for 123 yards,
Mhm.
2 touchdowns, and Ayuk
Ayuk was
somehow is,
fine.
yeah, in the top 10 rankings rest of the season with pretty much every expert out there. Yet he still continues to just put up marginal numbers.
Well, some takeaways from for me that I'll uh, lay out there. Addison looked incredible, and for a moment there, he went out. I think it ended up being cramping. It looks like his leg got hit, but like
Hmm.
slammed on. But I think it ended up being cramping. I'm glad he was able to return, but I think even at the point that he went out, um, Josh was ahead by a
By
point
point
at that
seven,
point.
yeah, by point
Yeah,
seven.
and Ayuk didn't catch a ball in the second half. In fact, he was only thrown to, I think, once in the second half, and it was
And it
that
hit the
little,
ground.
yes, it was that little one that he tried to pick up off the ground. Uh, and then instead of hurrying to the line, spent 10 seconds like in the first down pose. I
Oh,
believe
the Chase
before,
Claypool. Okay.
yeah, I believe before somebody came up and ripped the ball out of his hands and tried to get it down. But he, watching that game, Purdy Purdy tried to force some really bad throws into guys like Brandon Jennings, or not Brandon Jennings, got
Juwan
basketball in the mind.
Jennings. Yeah.
Juwan Jennings, all game, or at least in the second half, that just looked terrible. But really, the reason I lost that game is because Austin Eckler had a bad game. That's about it. I think if Austin Eckler has even a decent game, uh, I beat Josh, and we're not talking about this. But instead, he didn't. So I don't think it's Brandon Ayuk's fault that I lost. We're putting that one on Eckler. He's a fantasy player. He knows it's his fault, and he'll hear this, and I expect him to come back strong. So we're moving on.
That's fair. That's fair.
Um, Congrats, Josh, on the win, though. All right, let's move into let's move into well, a couple odds and ends, I guess. Um, we didn't mention the Bijan thing
Oh
in
yeah.
your
Where'd
game.
he go?
Um, I don't know that Bijan was going to help at this point. He would have had to have uh, probably what I would imagine would have been the best day of his season. But yeah,
Hmm.
but nonetheless, it only plays one snap essentially, gets one carry
At
for
the
three
very end
yards
too.
at the in the final 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah, it's very
Um,
weird.
Essentially, it sounds like just to say that he was healthy and could play, but they decided not to play him. So I don't know what to make of that. If you're Bill, are you nervous?
No, I mean the only thing that like I can really compare it to is like Percy Harvin's migraines, back in the day.
Mhm.
Uh that's what it
Interesting.
sort of seemed like where it was that bad of a headache, but you know, it sounds like Arthur Smith just didn't disclose it. And, according to the NFL rules, you do have to disclose those things.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Especially if you know about it the day prior, after you release your injury report and everything, and something comes up that would potentially very like drastically affect a player's chances of playing. You're supposed to immediately disclose that, and they did not. And
Yeah.
I don't know if like you know I do think the rule does state something along the lines of like not just like being able to dress, but like if they normally would play a certain amount of snaps, then like and that were to be impacted, then that's something that you would need to disclose. So just the fact that he dressed and played one snap doesn't sort of meet that qualification of not
Mhm.
reporting. So
Interesting. I mean, I think, yeah, I think if I'm Bill, there's no reason to panic at this point with Bijan. It's definitely odd, but it's a game that Bill could afford to lose, right?
oh
Um,
yeah, for sure. And
and Bijan's been so good up to this point that you're excited about it. I wonder. The only thing I wonder is with Cordell Patterson having such a good day. Um, if Bijan ends up ceding even more playing time than he already has, he's already been in a bit of a timeshare at times with Algiers, and
Yeah.
so is it possible that Cordero Patterson ends up back in that mix, and then it's kind of a three-headed running attack? I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, they did win, right? So,
Yeah,
it feels like Arthur Smith's the kind of guy that's like, well, we won. So, he sort of did that
we'll do
last
this
year where
again.
he sort of just rode that hot hand.
Hmm.
Um, I could see totally, yes. Let's get let's get Patterson back in it and get him more involved.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
I
be
mean
too concerned if I
Patterson played
was.
well, not necessarily from like a fantasy perspective, but from a football perspective. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
like
for sure.
he ran the ball well. So I don't, it wouldn't like shock me to see that him get more carries going forward, but we'll see.
He wasn't even
Um,
dressing, I don't think, like in the
Prior to
first
this,
couple
I don't think
games,
so.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah. And so, I mean, I get, yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned if I was Bill. I mean, honestly, the concern lies elsewhere in his team, but um,
yeah, yeah. I don't think Pedersen didn't dress the first 3 weeks of the season, and then had played around 2 to 10% of snaps before this game. So he'd only had one attempt in those games. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Um, okay, moving on.
moving on. Oh, but this did cost Bill the his stay on
Yeah,
the fantasy island, so he is out.
get the fuck out, Bill.
Yep, that leaves uh Jake, Ken, Michael, Peter Sullivan, and Steve.
We're
So
all
we
that's left.
five. Yep.
Down to
Yeah.
five. Any
Yeah. Which,
predictions
yeah.
as to who is going off the island next week?
Man. I think it could be Sullivan.
Sullivan.
I think it could be Sullivan. Yeah. What's
Uh,
interesting is that, here's my, as since I'm out of it, my sort of hope, well, no, I don't think we'll, because the 11th game that will decide, the 11th week will decide the champion, right? And so,
mhm,
unfortunately, it could end up with three people in your division left, right? The last three people.
mhm.
Unfortunately, we wouldn't have a game where we would have the winner of that game win the island, right? So, because I don't think any of you guys play each other till the 12th week again. So,
Um,
does that make sense?
yeah, yeah, I think you're
So,
right.
yeah, because the last 3 weeks are all divisional matchups. But
Yep.
yeah, you, Steve, and Jake are in there, and then um, Ken and Sullivan in our division, my division. So pretty cool.
Yeah, you're right. We wouldn't be able to get into a situation where somebody, at least,
There's a chance
yeah.
that they would have played each other, but yeah,
Um,
but
there's a
maybe in week
chance,
11.
though, I there might be a chance across divisions. No, I don't think so. It doesn't even look like that could happen.
No,
So, oh well.
no, I don't think it is.
Um,
I think it's
yeah,
all,
I
yeah.
think it's perfectly set up so that that couldn't happen.
Yep.
Okay. Oh
Anyway,
well. Uh, so Sullivan, yeah, I think Sullivan's probably the odds-on favorite to get kicked off the island next week. I would agree. Sullivan or Jake might have a shot at leaving as well. Uh, Jake could
yeah.
be Jake. Jake could be in the unenviable situation of winning his, well, and maybe the enviable situation of winning his game, but then also not being able to stay in the island.
Yeah, I wonder if that's happened. We'd have to go back. I'd have to go back and look and see if anyone's won the matchup.
I'm sure it's happened later in the season. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
It
won
has
the
to.
matchup and then gotten kicked off the island.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Um,
Um, but yeah,
all right.
let's move forward. We had a couple big football news, NFL related news pieces. Um,
So Olave gets arrested. Um,
beating.
yes, yes. Um, I heard he was going what 35 over in a 35-mile-an-hour zone. Is
Yeah,
that right?
I know he's going 35 over. I don't know what the speed limit was, but hmm,
I don't know.
he's in a
Um,
car speeding. Coincidence that his quarterback is Derek Carr?
oh, is
Seems
this
to,
it's
and
some sort of
then
conspiracy theory?
yes, and he's having what seems to be a dispute with his quarterback,
Hmm.
not being
So
thrown the ball enough, you know.
taking some aggression out on the car.
Yes, which seems to be a history of Derek Carr wide receivers speeding. So
Well, fortunately, unlike previous times, Olave was not drinking. And actually, it sounds like his arrest was fairly procedural in nature and not something he's going to end up doing time in jail for in any real way.
no,
He'll
he did pull the I play for the
do,
Saints.
oh,
So
didn't help him though.
it did not help him. No, no,
That's too
no.
bad. Well, you got to
Yeah.
try.
Oh, you
Um,
can't fault him for trying. I mean,
yeah,
you gotta mention it.
yeah,
You
of
gotta
course.
do that. Oops. Um, that's my New Orleans Saints, employee ID badge. My bad. Oh, sorry.
Well, that's where you say, careful with those hands, officer, when you're putting those handcuffs on, because I make my living with these catching footballs for the New York or for the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Some injuries, a couple minor, and not minor. Ford goes down. I think we already kind of addressed that. Was having
Hmm.
had a huge run right beforehand too, like a 70-yard touchdown run, didn't he?
Yeah.
Right before he
Yeah.
got hurt.
Something
And
huge.
then
Mm.
um, Knox goes out, uh, which I mean,
His
Dalton
wrist
Kincaid's
surgery.
yeah, Dalton Kincaid has been sitting on my bench for a while now. Finally had a decent game. Um, I'm intrigued to see what happens there. Unfortunate for Knox. Knox, though, kind of been the guy in the red zone for them. Um, in terms of tight ends. So it'll be interesting to see where those targets go. Um, and then Kyler's coming back, possibly.
Yeah, that's what I heard that he might I think they activated him, so I think he might have to be back in the next 3 weeks, but
Yes,
possible
yeah.
return this week. I think he's practicing, so which for Kelly, might be a good thing, because she did start Deshaun Watson last week, and he is injured and not playing this week. Can't remember what he did. It's uh tore something or anyway, he sucks.
Yeah.
He's a shitty person. So Kyler might be coming back just in time for her to avoid starting Ritter. But she's at a music festival with Jake this weekend, and I don't think they'll have service. So
Well, there you go.
yep.
Um, the Watson got injured, but we don't need to dwell on Deshaun Watson. Nobody should ever dwell on Deshaun Watson. Um, the uh, the waiver wire fairly it wasn't a huge week on the waiver wire. I don't think there was anything uh, big. I think Cam Akers went. Trey McBride went to Bill for $10 after Zach Ertz went on IR. Uh, okay.
Is
And
Trey McBride good? I don't even know who that is. So
uh, Trey McBride has been about what you'd expect for a, you know, backup tight end. He's been okay, I guess. But I wouldn't expect magic from him, I guess. Um, yeah, nothing else all that crazy other than Jake picking up Josh Kelly. Just because, oh wow, Peter put in a bid too. Wow, getting Josh Kelly has a good game with Eckler back, scores a touchdown, um, and immediately lures people back in. And
and wasn't it just one big run? I thought it was like,
uh,
he had a 49-yard run. So he had a 50-yard run
there you go.
and then went six
That is
carries for
correct.
25
Yes.
yards. So like
Yeah, that is correct.
I don't I yeah, I don't know what people are doing. That is
Um,
ridiculous.
but
But I do like the Cam Akers pickup. He did have more touches, uh, I think more carries than Madison did on the in week 7. It looks like he's
okay.
getting more involved in the passing game. So, I don't know. I think it's going to be truly a split, right?
Hmm.
I think probably a pretty 50-50 split, but
Hmm.
it there's a chance, right,
Yeah,
that he does take over that backfield in some fashion, but I just don't know if it's enough for fantasy relevance.
agreed. Some defenses, some kickers, all went. And Ken finally cut Brett Maher. Um,
Is he on
ours,
anyone's team?
no,
Uh,
he got cut earlier today by the Ram, or I guess yesterday actually by the Rams. Yeah,
did
had a
he
rough
just?
season.
Oh, yeah. I guess he's just missed a ton.
So,
Actually, yeah. I mean, he's missed some. He's missed a lot of field goals, but
I mean, he's missed. I think he's missed like 6 field goals so far this year. Um, so, oh well. All right, that's the waiver wire story. Uh, the trade story. So Steve makes a move for James Cook earlier last week. Um, kind of. Uh, let's actually go to Steve's. I hate how this works.
great
Let's go to
photo.
Steve's page right here. That is a great photo. So Steve makes a move, picked up James Cook, right? For how much
Yep,
last week?
$18, 2024 money.
$18 to kind of help him sustain the loss of Kieran Williams, or
Hmm.
sustain his fantasy season after the loss of Williams. It immediately pays off. James Cook has a big game last week. Um, one of the better games of the season of his season. Is this you think it, I mean, what are your thoughts about it?
I
Is
thought
this
it
a
was a.
good? Was it paying too much? Was it paying the right
I thought it
amount?
was pretty close to dead on. Um, if we're looking at other trades this year, I think it's in line, right? You had Henry and Jacobs go um for 30, right around $30. You went out and got who did you pay for?
I paid for Monty and Swift
Monty and
for
Swift,
38
yes.
bucks.
Yeah, and so you kind of looking at those, and 18 makes some sense. I think I got a similar, an RB2 and Rashad White,
Mhm,
and Pittman for 18. But I think overall, I mean, you're paying for a solid RB2 who is the clear number one. Latavius Murray is fucking washed. I don't care what people say that he's now like the backup for him. I don't think Murray is taking any of James Cook's, 2 minute work, maybe
mhm,
a little red zone work, but I think as the season goes on, they lean more and more on Cook. Uh,
mhm,
and he's on one of the best teams in football. So in that vein, you're paying for a guy who is putting up RB2 numbers, RB1 upside
mhm,
on one of the best teams in football. $18 seems pretty reasonable.
mhm.
And it showed, right? And I think it was a great move for Steve because I think he really needed it.
Yep.
He's tried to sort of piece together a couple other running backs
Yeah. I
and
mean,
sort of band-aid over, and it's
S-
not there.
Steve's roster looks a lot like Peter Kramer's roster, just with running backs instead of, you know,
No, yeah,
like,
Peter had
er,
all running backs.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. With running backs, I mean, the, it, oh, well, actually, I guess it's the inverse is what I'm thinking of Kramer's, because Peter Kramer had what I thought were some decent backs, although no, they suck.
No,
There's no
it's all just
relation.
sort of mediocre backs. Like both of them just
Yeah,
have mediocre
yeah,
backs on their bench.
yeah,
Uh, and I thought is a great move by Steve. I think, um,
yeah,
I think that spending a little more time talking about his team is very warranted at the moment, um, given how well he's doing. But Hubbard, I think filled in for him last week, which in week 6, which ended up being a good week for him. Uh,
hmm,
but Miles Sanders is fully healthy, practice and full today, so likely is at best going to be splitting carries. Um, and then Algier, yeah, I think in just a tough spot there. Mason, you're not seeing work unless CMC comes out. I think CMC played every single snap in
yeah.
week 7. Um,
After all that,
After the oblique thing, yeah, he played 100% of snaps. The second time he's done that this season, and so he needed someone. And
yep,
I think Jake, we went through Jake's team earlier, and Jake had some actual talent at running back that sort of waiting in the wings. And so I know Jake felt good about um,
moving.
trading him. I know there's a bit in back and forth based on what Jake mentioned. Um, that there was some negotiations, but they both landed on. It sounds like they landed on 18, and both felt good about it. But I'd love to hear from Steve about his mentality here. But I think it was a great move.
Yeah, I agree. I think it helps a lot. I mean, Steve's team is obviously fantastic. He's got um he's got a stacked team. He's at the top of the league in points, which I think speaking of, we can announce week 8, if you don't recall on the payouts breakdown. Um week
It's
8,
it's pinned to the chat if you go back to the sleeper app,
good call. Uh, I gotta
upper
find
right.
this
Yeah.
thing. Yep. Week 8 is the halftime bonus. That was the fifth weekly prize we're giving out. That is not actually a weekly prize that you're going to be able to pick up during Sunday's games. It is a weekly prize that is coming out right now in the middle of this week. The halftime bonus was the points leader at the halfway mark, and this is basically officially the halfway mark of the regular season. We're in the limbo space between week 7 and week 8. So, Steve, congratulations. Our fifth weekly prize winner. With the most points halfway through the season, is going home with a $50 cash bonus.
Yeah, super deserved. I think, he
Struggled out of the
really,
gate to get wins, but was always putting up points, I think.
yeah. I mean, even just going back to before the season start, I think he was really hustling
Hmm.
at the end of last season to put together, a right before the trade deadline last year, to put together a roster for this year, and that started
Hmm.
with getting hurt, and then AJ Brown, I believe, in the off season, uh,
Hmm.
and then pairing those two with Jamar Chase, and you could say it started even earlier last year, and I think it was week 4, week 5, when he and I worked out that trade for CMC, in which he saddled me with the dead weight. Although big ups to my man Darren Waller for playing great last week, where in order to keep the price, I think at $30, um, we did a tight end swap where I
Hmm.
took on Waller's contract and he got Dallas Goddard, which I think clearly the better tight end there, and and it's worked out well for him so far. So I mean, it worked out great for me last year, so can't complain about that. Um,
Yeah.
but he came back and got CMC again, and
Yep.
now his team is just incredible. So uh, yeah, I
Yeah.
think much deserved here for all the work he did last season and in the off season and to start the season. So uh, pretty incredible,
Yeah. I
absolutely
think it's
terrifying.
Steve's built a hell of a team. So congratulations to Steve on the halftime bonus. Speaking of kind of the the race for the most points, the person that Steve is playing this week is actually number 2 in points. A matchup we definitely want to highlight. So, Ken comes in a bit of an underdog, I think, against Steve. A little banged up, uh, it looks like, but yeah, it seems like I think both Walker and Lawrence are going to play. Um, what do you think of this matchup? Where are you at?
Well, yeah, I think Steve's team is looking obviously incredible. And you know, Philadelphia playing against Washington, we saw the Bears just the Bears get a W there against them. And so I'm expecting a massive game from Hurts and AJ Brown and Dallas Goddard, and then we just saw the Niners get embarrassed on Monday Night TV. So I have a feeling the Niners are going to come out hard, and CMC is going to have a big game. But on the opposite side, you see Stephon Diggs had a what you would consider a relatively quiet day, right? Six
Uh-huh.
receptions, 58 yards. Offense just wasn't clicking. Uh,
Hmm.
so I could see a big response there too. And then I'm gonna need a Taylor Swift tracker here. Is she going to be at the Kansas City game? Because if not, then Ken's in trouble. But if so, you're looking at another 30 burger from Kelsey. He's in games that she's there, he's getting, uh, you know, I think he's breaking that 15-point barrier in fantasy points. And so, but overall, I think Steve's going to edge this one out. But it all also could come down to the quarterback that Ken chooses, right? I think that's been kind of Ken's kryptonite. He's got a case of the roses and tinkering a bit.
Hmm. Hmm.
He's got Trevor Lawrence in there right now, who's been okay, pretty consistent. but hasn't had that sort of breakout
I
game,
mean,
right? Hasn't had a
yeah,
20 plus point game yet. And
Lawrence has
I
been
don't know
pretty.
if you do it. I don't know if you do it against TJ Watt. So
Yeah, I'm not so sure either. Um, I mean, we'll see. I also don't know that I would trust Sam Howell, so I'm not really sure unless he's going to pick somebody up. Um, I'm not really sure he has much choice uh, other than Trevor Lawrence at this point. I also just noticed, which I had not noticed earlier today when looking uh, across the fantasy landscape, but DK Metcalf, who can started, but who ultimately did not play last week, now does not carry an injury tag uh, going going into this week, which is kind of mind-boggling to me. Um, I was very nearly in Ken's situation in another league. I caught DK Metcalf being out about 5 minutes before their game was about to start.
yeah,
But I don't really understand how he was banged up enough on Sunday to miss the game and ready enough on Wednesday uh, to not carry an injury tag. Pretty impressive.
yeah, that's kind of shocking, right? And I know
Yeah.
it was truly a game time decision, right? And
Um,
one of those, it's definitely not a penalty if um you start someone who was ruled out, the morning of, right?
yes, it is
In the
not
90
a
minute, that's
finable
not.
offense Ken will not be fined for that.
Yeah, yeah, that's not something that I don't think that's life gets in the way, etc. So, but it is shocking to me that he practiced in full 3 days later.
Yeah, yeah, I was pretty surprised. Um, So, but we'll see. Maybe Metcalf maybe he's fine. I don't know that Metcalf is going to work his way into Ken's starting lineup though this week. That could possibly depend on whether or not Montgomery is back in Detroit and Gibbs is relegated to kind of a his sidekick role that he was earlier in the season. Although Gibbs had kind of his breakout day um, last week, finally getting a touchdown, catching a ton of balls for 58 yards, and really kind of putting it all together in for Detroit in Baltimore, um, who played like Detroit played like shit, so they might be really tempted to go back to Monty in a big way, despite Gibbs's good day. But I think it was ultimately the well, I don't know. I don't think it was just the defense. The offense obviously did not play well either. So
Yeah, you
um,
get a classic Jared Goff game, every once in a while he just puts up a
yeah,
turd.
every
So
once in a while Jared Goff's gonna shit the bed. Um, okay, yeah. Any picks on this game of the week?
you know, I think you just gotta ride the hot hand and Steve. But I think there's a couple there variables there on Ken's team that could either make or break, right? One was the Gibbs factor.
Yep.
Um, the other being Kenneth Walker is playing Cleveland. Scary front seven to go up against. But and then Brees Hall's playing the Giants. You could see a huge day from Brees Hall
Yeah.
to help offset some of that. And then yeah, I think Diggs is in for a big day. Kelsey, obviously, and then Christian Kirk has been playing phenomenally. But yeah, do they go back, and try and work Ridley in more, right? It's kind of this, yeah. It's a little scary for me, but I'm interested to see how that one turns out. Hopefully, it's a close game.
I'm gonna say Ken pulls it out. I think Ken's got this one. The Yeah, I'm gonna